And let me switch the view to there, and people can now join us. Okay, excellent. So hello everybody, welcome. I was just looking at a note that Mike has just sent me. Apologies for that. So we're deeply honored to be joined by Mike Lloyd tonight. And Mike and I met the first time our morning, because it's Mike's morning time. What time is it there, Mike?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. So we met at Shutterfest last year, right?
2018.
So,
yeah.
2018.
Was it 18 or 19?
19, I think. I think we met in
okay. That's right. I was thinking 2 Shutterfests to go because this one didn't happen. So technically 1 Shutterfest to go. Yeah.
Yes. 1 year. So hopefully we'll be all back there next year and things will be rocking and rolling again once we defeat this silent enemy. But Mike is an amazing photographer who specializes in the niche, depending where you're from, right? Mike?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to get it out in both languages. You know, there's a little bit of difference between the Queen's English and American English, but we'll get it out eventually. In the niche of boudoir, and he is an amazing educator, and people who follow him absolutely love what he has to say and what he has to teach. So we're deeply honored to have you here, Mike. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us, you're based in Silicon Valley, right? So we have to talk about the silent enemy just for a couple of minutes, not to put a dampener on anything, but just to let people know where we all are, because in all parts of the world, we're in different places right now. So what's it like with you and where you're based?
Well, I feel like California was one of the first places to kind of lock everything down. So I want to say March 16th, kind of as soon as people realized that this was a legit situation, our state shut things down. And like everywhere, it was the mad rush to the grocery stores and load up on toilet paper. I had other priorities. I swung by the store and got like 4 big bottles of bourbon. And then I went to my favorite taqueria and I ordered like 15 burritos, cut them in half and threw them in the freezer in freezer bags. I'm like, I'm good for, I got burritos and bourbon, so I'm set. Hopefully this thing doesn't last forever. And then things just slowly reopening. But I mean, like we were saying before, I've only shot 1 client since February, and we just keep pushing things back. Because even once we got to the point where we could shoot, like if I was wearing a mask or something, my stylist's office, their salons weren't open. So sending someone to get hair and makeup was an issue. And I couldn't really advertise, my normal behind the scenes live footage of what we're doing on shoots, because I don't think I was legally supposed to even do the 1 shoot that I did a few weeks ago. So I know I'm outing myself right now, but it is what it is. We just kind of been waiting.
And Mike, are you still officially now in lockdown, or are you allowed to do shoots, or what?
As far as I know, in the next 6 days, everything will be open. But I know parts of California, like San Diego, announced today, which is like the big metropolitan area south of LA. They've locked down for the next 2 weeks. Everything is shut down again. So I don't know. They just announced that on the 13th, salons would be open back up. I haven't heard any word about photography doing what I do. I know they said you can do outdoor stuff, but the hotels have stayed open and I shoot primarily in hotels. So I haven't had any issues. I mean, no one's going to see what we're doing. So
tell us how are your clients reacting? How do they feel about it? Or have you been talking to your clients, moving the calendar out as you've had to?
Yeah. So I came across an interesting bit of information earlier this year. When the lockdown happened, I wanted to reach out to all of my past clients and just check in and see how they were doing. And because I have pretty good relationships with a lot of my clients. And I noticed that almost all of my clients in the last several years are all healthcare workers, like clinicians, nurses, researchers, something in healthcare. And I never made that connection before. So when I reached out to everybody, it was like, the information that I got back from them as to what this situation was like in the hospitals and the clinics, I think kept things pretty real for me. It made me not want to push boundaries and open too soon and put myself or anyone else in danger. But that was kind of a cool realization. And then from there, I ended up launching a marketing campaign for the month of June with like a giveaway with a couple of my favorite local vendors and a bunch of live videos specifically for healthcare workers. And then I invited all of my past clients to join the lives and recommend their friends. And we made it kind of a big thing and ended up booking a bunch of shoots out of it, which was pretty cool. And I got tons of support from all of the past clients. So it was a pretty cool thing.
And those past clients, Mike, are they like they're the frontline workers, so they're going through a lot of stuff, both physically and psychologically and everything like that. Did that sort of create a desire that they wanted to do another shoot or a boudoir shoot? Or
yeah, absolutely, because they're in a mask every day and all the PPE that they have to wear, and they get home after this insane 12-hour shifts and they're just exhausted, and they put on some yoga pants and they go to bed, and then they do it again the next day. And no one's really going out doing fun things, but they've had no time or energy to do anything for themselves or like feel pretty. They can't wear any makeup because it messes with the masks, and they just wanted to feel beautiful again. And in talking to my clients, I realized that there was that need there. And so I changed the language on my website. I changed the language on the posts that I was making to specifically address those things using the words that my clients were using.
So a really important lesson there, right? Listen to your clients, listen to what they're saying and talk their lingo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just followed a bunch of new healthcare influencers on Instagram and saw what other people were commenting and kind of found the same handful of issues that everyone was dealing with, and teamed up with my stylist to how do we, create a skincare procedure or a regimen for someone who's wearing a mask all day, and things like that, like providing value that was timely without a sales pitch, just giving value, bringing people into our world.
So you're reaching out with help to say, if you're wearing a mask, this is how you should deal with makeup. Was that some of the angles that you pursued?
Yeah, different ways to stay hydrated, moisturizers, how to fight the acne that could be coming, the breakouts from wearing the mask all the time, how to, minimize when you take the mask off and you have lines on your face from where the mask was sitting, like how do you get that to bounce back quicker and things like that.
And was the feedback really positive from those healthcare workers? What was the feedback like?
Yeah, I was worried that people were going to assume we were just profiteering off of this situation and targeting a very currently popular group of people. But everyone that reached out to us, I didn't get any negative feedback. It was all, thank you so much for doing this. We feel appreciated, and this is the kind of thing that we need right now. And it was pretty cool.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Because it just shows when there's a need there, and as you say, you're not selling, you're giving first. Mm-hmm. That people, they don't actually react negatively to that. We worry too much sometimes about that, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, I didn't want to seem like I was just taking advantage of the situation by targeting this group. But when I realized that all of my past clients, or maybe 85, 90% of them, were in healthcare, I'm like, well, these are already my people. How do I give back in whatever way I can? And then we did do that giveaway to make some money out of this, but it's not just me making money. It's me serving these women who need this and want this, and then everyone wins.
So great lessons there, Mike, regardless of what genre we're in, right? Knowing your client, listening to their needs, and coming up with solutions for them. I want to go back in time now a little bit. So how did you get into photography? Tell us that story, that backstory to how you entered this wonderful industry of ours.
Sure. I've always had it as a hobby. Like since I was a kid, taking pictures of things. I had a little not point and shoot because it was film back in the day, but no SLR, just, load in the roll of film. I had a button that activated the shutter. That was my only control on it. I had an eye for composition. I didn't know it yet, but I didn't know anything else about it. It was like, sunsets and my neighborhood and things like that. And then again, just always a fun hobby. And then in college, a friend's girlfriend wanted to get into modeling. She's like, you like photography? Will you take some pictures of me so I can try and find an agency? Never photographed people before, but sure, why not? So we went to a local winery, spent a couple hours taking some pictures, and went to get the pictures printed. And like, these aren't so bad. They were way better than I was anticipating. And I knew that some buttons on the camera made the images darker and some buttons made them lighter. I didn't know what aperture was or shutter speed or any of that. I just was kind of winging it. And it was a little like digital Sony point and shoot, touch screen on the back. I thought was super cool. And when I went in to get the pictures developed, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, now I want to start photographing other things. And the guy's like, you're never going to do it with that camera. Bought my first DSLR that day. And then 2009, I graduated college, and it was middle of the Great Recession. I was living in France at the time. I moved back to the States, and I had no work. I had no money. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I saw an ad on Craigslist for this company, kind of like Groupon. So I would drive around and photograph the different frozen yogurt place, yoga studio, restaurant, bar, whatever. And they would use those photos to do the promotions. And I'm like, I can get paid to take pictures. Okay. And from there it was like headshots. And then there it was families, and it just started growing. And I was just kind of figuring it out as I went. So you were self-taught a lot then, but was there any particular photographer who you said, oh, I love what they do and followed, or who were your influencers? Yeah, so I was totally self-taught. I've never taken a photography class, and I'm colorblind, fun fact. Lindsay Adler was like my biggest influence, and she had an article promoting her book, Fashion Flair for the Portrait Photographer, that came out in, I don't know, some photography magazine that a friend let me borrow probably right around that time, maybe 2009, 2010. And I went and bought the book and realized that I could photograph like normal people like a fashion shoot, because I want to do fashion, like really creative, artistic stuff. But at Silicon Valley, we don't do fashion, we do computers here. So, yes. And I didn't want to go to LA. I didn't want to go to New York with no experience, no portfolio, and then try and compete there. I also just didn't want to move across the country for that. So that book kind of gave me permission, is how I took it, to go photograph people in whatever style I wanted. And it would separate me from my competition. And I actually got to meet her on Creative Live maybe a year or so after that. And she signed the book for me. And that was like my big moment there.
So one of mine was meeting Mike Michalowicz, from first and stuff. But yes, I know how you feel. I was really like it, I was looked like a fangirl. I was, people who were there who knew me were saying, Roland, do you know how you reacted when you met Mike Michalowicz, But but I understand. Yep. I understand that feeling when you meet a hero of yours.
Yeah, and it was a really cool thing. When I asked her if she'd autographed the book, and told her, like, this is what inspired me to start shooting the way that I shoot. She's like, cool, but you can't read it till, later on. Cause it's like, I want to, like, this is embarrassing, like to write a message or whatever, I'm like, cool. And we ended up, it was in San Francisco. We ended up grabbing like burritos and went and sang karaoke with the Creative Live crew that day after everything was done. And just like hanging out with everybody, and everyone is like a real person with real problems. And we're like, no one was even talking about photography. It was just everything else in life. And I think that was the other big moment there, that why can't I do this? Like, why I'm no different than anyone else in this room. They just started before me.
Yes. And it's interesting because we tend to put our heroes on pedestals, don't we? And then we're nearly afraid to talk to them, but they're just normal people like us. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
just reach out to people. If you think you've got somebody who's a hero, like people, 99% of people are lovely people and are willing to give their time and have a chat and help in whatever way they can. So
yeah,
I urge you to do that. So talk about your transition then. So we're at the stage where we've seen Lindsay, we've seen her on Creative Live, and you knew that you loved this fashion piece of photography. So what happened then? How did you end up where you are now? Talk to us about that journey.
So I didn't really know how to shoot any of the stuff that I wanted to shoot at the time. So I started a meetup group and I was going to teach photography. And I would schedule a meetup. I don't know that I've ever like announced this publicly before. So I would announce a workshop I'm going to teach. Some of the things were like shooting through glass, like where we put stuff on the glass for, adding depth in images or a certain lighting style, or we did like a cool trash the dress shoot with all my paintball stuff and a girl in a wedding gown and kind of whatever creative things that I wanted to learn. I would post a workshop about it and I'm like, cool, I have 2 weeks to learn this so that I can teach it at the workshop. And I would just, set up a tripod on my remote and photograph myself doing these things. And I got paid to learn the style of photography that I wanted and made a bunch of friends along the way. And when you learn something well enough to teach it, you have to learn the mechanics of things and really know the ins and outs to teach it effectively. And so I learned better than if I would have, I think, gone to school for this or anything else. And
so who would be at this workshop? Would they be other professional photographers, or would they be keen amateurs, or who would they be?
Yeah, it was kind of split between, someone in their 30s working an engineering job here in Silicon Valley who had disposable income and photography was a hobby, and then retirees who always liked photography and just want to do something fun to stay busy. And no one was really doing it to be a professional. Just hanging out, learning how to take cool photos. And
so they were pursuing to learn how to do their hobby better.
Yeah. And just hang out with other people who also liked photography. So I know some of the people like didn't, I never saw any edited photos. I never, I'd like to follow up with everybody, and they were more there to hang out and take pictures. And if they never took the image off the memory card, then it was still a successful day.
Very good. So, how did you get the word out about that? Was it, if you wanted to do something like that, was it, you said you recorded how you were going to do it, and then would you post it on Facebook, or how would people even know about it?
They were all live workshops. So I just had a meetup group and that was it. And when people join meetup, you enter in some of the things you're interested in, and it'll give you suggested groups based on that. And so if anyone put photography in, it would suggest my group is one of the photography groups to join. And then, I would ask people, hey, if you have friends who are into photography, maybe in other groups, invite them to join this group. And I think it only got up to 500-600 people locally. And a lot of the workshops I did were the same 15 to 20 people. I'd limit the group to 8 because I felt in a 3-hour window, that gives everyone a decent amount of shoot time. It's a manageable size group. And then we'd go from there.
And so you were teaching people then how to take better photographs and be creative with their photography with a keen interest in it. So how, at the same time, were you actually selling photography as a product and an experience at the same time?
Yeah, I think it was 2011 that I started actually taking like paid portrait clients. And I was living in an apartment at the time, and I didn't have an office. I didn't have a studio or anything. And I started donating gift certificates to charity events because I got a mentor. I reached out, found 2 photography mentors who were already crushing it, both in the wedding space, but photography is photography. And, it's the conversations might be different, but it's the same principles. So whatever genre you're learning, you can learn from any other photographer or any other business for that matter. So I got these two mentors, and one of them told me to donate gift certificates to charity auctions and fundraisers where my ideal client goes, because they have money and they can, they want to spend it. So I did that, and it was great advertising, and I booked a handful of sessions from it. And that's kind of how I got started taking clients, and then figuring out Facebook. This is, I think, pre-Facebook ads, maybe right around that time. But most of it was just doing networking events with other local businesses and writing letters, sending out gift certificates.
So you mentioned
traffic.
there ideal clients, and some people call it ideal client avatar. But a lot of people struggle with the process of, who is my ideal client? How do I discover that? How did you figure that out? Did your mentor give you a formula to follow, or did they say just go and find them? And how did you approach that process?
That wasn't something I really got into until way later on. At the time, I had no idea, other than these people have families and money, therefore they could hire you for family photos. That was as far as I'd got into my ideal client. And I think I didn't even know what the term meant at that time. So for me, it was, even something I struggled with for years after that, because I tried to figure it out. So everyone's like, you need your ideal client so you can market to them. And I started looking at people who were booking me, and the only commonalities I was finding were the fact that they had a family and wanted family photos. I mean, totally different industries, upbringings, income levels. I mean, I had, waitresses booking me for sessions, spending the same as doctors were. And I could not find any kind of correlation in these like fashion style shoots that I was putting on. And it really wasn't till way later on that I started looking at what the important thing is when defining your ideal client. Because I can grab a headshot off some stock photo site, and I can say, this is Jennifer. She's a 42-year-old mom of two with a, job in whatever, came from wherever, married, and great. That doesn't really help me at all, other than the fact that she's potentially a client because she's a person and I photograph people. But like the example I gave with the healthcare workers earlier, learning what their daily struggles were and what things are important to them allowed me to speak their language. And that's the main function of even identifying your ideal client, is so that you can speak to them in their language and be like, hey, I get you, and I can provide a solution for you. And even if you don't want what I'm offering right now, you still belong in my sphere, and maybe your friends want what I have, or maybe down the road you will. But either way, I want more people like you in this circle. And when that started happening a few years ago, really, that's when I felt like I understood it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, because sometimes we do get hung up on the demographics. We got to think with the psychographics as well. But the other thing, of course, is it might be just it might be nothing got to do with income levels or whatever, but it might be a value that they have. So I know some photographers who've gone through this process as well, and they said they identified that for their family portraiture, that it was actually, they recognized that the people who spent the most were families who just seemed to value family life a little bit more. And they figured out a process around that. And then they discovered, so where do these families who are like that hang out a bit more? And they started to put themselves in those environments. So exactly what you're talking about, just a different way. But the demographics can be just one aspect of it, can't it? There's just so much more to figure that out.
Yeah, and demographics are important for building your portfolio. Because if you are photographing, 22-year-old Instagram models and filling your website with that, then the 45-year-old mother who's not a size 0 is going to look at your photos and think, well, that's not my photographer. Even though you might be targeting that person, you're showing them the wrong thing. So you do need to know who it is you're targeting from the demographic perspective. But that's really just for the sake of your portfolio. And then the actual words you use, which is really where the magic happens, because you can have the most beautiful photos in the world, and if you don't know how to communicate with your client in words, then you're never going to make it. And it's easier than you think. You just, again, like we talked about, have to recognize what is the thing that I should be talking to you about.
And the importance of that, like you've said, is, it's from your client's perspective, right? Not your perspective as the photographer.
Yeah, I am not my ideal client. I mean, as a boudoir photographer, I wouldn't book me. So, and as I touched on earlier, healthcare workers is who I've mostly photographed. And it's like, okay, well, but what else about them besides that occupation? And then it forced me to look at the other women that I photographed also. I mean, like, okay, well, now where's this correlation? And it came down to women who give of themselves all of the time and never prioritize their own wants and needs. And then this is an opportunity for them to do something kind for themselves. And when I started speaking those words, that showed me, which Instagram accounts to look up and which ones to follow and engage with, and new people that I can do cross promotion with, and tells me how to write my posts and my blog posts, my emails, everything right there. I just use the words that they use now that I know who I'm going after.
And I love that whole message you're giving to people about the importance of words. Because when I'm talking to photographers, because we're visually creative and composition and all that piece, that quite often we forget that it's actually the words that make the connection.
Yeah.
The images are nearly a backup reinforcement of that, or to stop the scroll on whatever network that we might be advertising on. But really, what you're trying to do is connect with words, because that's what people connect with. So I absolutely love that. And really, really, really great lesson for everybody who's joining us and sees this live. Because one of the things we teach in StoryBrand is, when you're designing your website, you should start with the words, get the words, and then put the images in. Because otherwise, you if you start with the images, you start trying to reflect the images in the words rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
So great lesson for people. Great lesson. So Mike, we're at the stage now where we're sort of in your career. We're sort of we've done the family portrait stuff and all that sort of piece. How did you end up in Boudoir? Tell us about that. Was that an aha moment, or how did that come about?
Well, I like to say Boudoir chose me. So I knew I didn't want to keep doing families and engagements. I wasn't enjoying it as much as I wanted to. And not that every day of work has to be the most exciting day ever, but I just wasn't looking forward to doing shoots anymore. I was making money, things were good, but I wasn't feeding my soul. And for fun, I do a lot of like advertising photography for like Cirque du Soleil performers and cabaret shows. And I love live entertainment. And so I built up a reputation here in the Bay Area for being a photographer who would do the commercial images for performing arts. And that was tons of fun. And somebody had hired me to do a boudoir shoot. They wanted marketing photos, boudoir style, and reached out and asked if I would do it because she had seen other work I had done for some of her other friends. And I'm like, well, I don't really shoot that. And I don't shoot nudity, but if you're cool with just like experimenting, I'm down to try it. And so we met up and we did the shoot, and I showed up, and it was a single bedroom, white walls, nothing hanging up on the walls. And like, okay, well, not a lot to work with here. So how do we create something cool? And that's kind of the first time I used my single strip box with my single gridded strip box. And that's become my signature style. It's like there was nothing in the room, and I didn't just want to show a person in an empty white room. So if I can make the rest of the room disappear and just show, what I wanted to, then cool. And she loved the photos. I thought they turned out pretty good too. And then one of her friends wanted to do it. And then somebody else wanted to do it, and it kind of just started growing. I'm like, maybe I got something. So I launched a second brand, Saint Laurent Photography. And when I branded this is one of the lessons I learned from my first mentor is, your name, your logo, your colors, all that stuff, like they matter to a point, but you can't dwell on it and you can't get lost in the details of fine tuning them forever. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to do this right. I took the Louis Vuitton font. I grabbed colors from, I want to say a Prada ad and Saint Laurent, because I love all things French, and because Yves Saint Laurent is a well-known fashion designer brand. And it's like, cool. I want someone to look at this and just instantly associate it with high fashion, but like not really think any more into it than that. Got that done in like a day. And then started moving forward. I hosted a marathon day. I photographed, I think, 7 or 8 people that day and got a portfolio. And then I just started marketing that, and it grew. And I'm like, cool. Well, if I'm going to choose one genre to pursue, I'm really enjoying this. And it took off pretty quick because I've already got a name here in the area, and I don't really want to shoot the other one anyway. So I just dropped the old brand, moved into this new one, and it's just kind of grown.
So many important lessons there. I don't know where to start. But necessity being the need of invention, is one of them, that you're in this room, and you had to get creative, and it informed your style. And then the importance then of, I call it the fluffy stuff. Yeah. So it is important, your logo and all that, but too many people dwell too long on that sort of stuff, don't they? Instead of just getting that done and doing the important stuff, which is the connecting with the ideal client and getting your messaging right and getting out there. So,
totally. Can I jump back to one of those things real quick before we move forward?
Of course.
So one of the things that I've always focused on is learning from people outside of the photography industry. I mentioned Lindsay Adler was a huge influence for me, but I've never taken photography classes. I never took a boudoir posing class or anything like that. I had studied fashion magazines, and that's how I learned how to pose. So all of my posing is inspired by fashion magazines, not traditional boudoir. So when I did that shoot, it looked like a commercial fashion spread. I mean, you could have dropped like a perfume logo on any of those images and sold products like that. And that's how I shoot. So, and again, when I was branding it, I didn't look at boudoir photography companies to see how they branded themselves. I wanted to be approached like a high fashion or like that expensive perfume company. So that's how I branded myself, because it's about the mood that you convey. And I didn't want to be like everybody else in the area. So that's something I've always focused on, and I think it's served me very well.
And I think it's a really important lesson, because one of the things we teach in our 2-page business success planning process is, it's I don't know if you've read the book Brand Now by Nick Westergaard, but one of the things he talks about is identify with a brand that you absolutely love, and then adopt that into your name. So for us, when we did this, we went, we are the Apple of the photographic supplies business. And we use that then, and everything we do, we say, how would Apple do this? And we sign up to all of Apple's newsletters, and we watch all their advertising, and we try and learn from that. And you've done exactly that for your business. So
yeah,
I love it. It's great to see, to talk to somebody who's actually done it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I didn't learn Facebook ads from photographers or copywriting, email management, or any of that. The entrepreneurship community that I've surrounded myself with, I mean, I did get lucky. I went to an event a couple years ago, and one of the keynotes there, or the keynote at the event, was holding up different books that he had authored and was giving them away. And he holds one up, and I instantly jumped up and raised my hand. I'm like, we got to talk. And he's like, whoa, calm down, hold up. Cause he was asking who wants my book? And then people would raise their hands. So when I got to this book, I'm like, I need this book. And at the end I went up to him and I'm like, hey, how did you come up with the title for this book? And the book is 3 Feet from Gold. And he's like, oh, it's from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And I'm like, I know. And I like lift up my shirt and I have Think and Grow, or 3 Feet from Gold tattooed down my side. He's like, oh, you've read my book. I'm like, no, I have no idea who you are, but we both have read Napoleon Hill, obviously. So Botogs out there, go pick up Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. It's the original business development, personal development book, and it will change the way you look at life and business. Anyway, so we started chatting because obviously we connected over this, and he's like, well, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a photographer. He's like, I need a photographer. I'm like, you just found one. So I couldn't afford his coaching. So I'm like, I'll do your photographs if you'll mentor me. He's like, deal. And, he lives 8 hours away from me down in San Diego. So I would just drive or fly down and spend a couple days at his place. We'd do some shoots and he'd help me out and started going to his events. And I mean, I spent $3,000 to go to the first event he put on there. And it's ranked one of the top business events by Forbes and Inc. magazine. I mean, it's a pretty legit thing. And it's called Secret Knock. And you don't know who's going to be there or where it's going to be, but it's $3,000 your first time. And I was meeting people at this other event who were like, you gotta go. It'll change your life. I'm like, how? Like $3,000 is a big ask to not give me any information. And they're like, the people you'll meet, the things that open up, like your world is going to change. I'm like, I need more than that. And after enough people were just so passionate about it that they didn't benefit from me going. Like they weren't making money off of whatever I was, or whatever the tickets they were going to sell. So I ended up getting the ticket. I'm like, well, I'm putting myself in this community of entrepreneurs. This is an opportunity for me to go and do it. I ended up meeting people like Brian Smith, the founder of UGG boots. So like I got to watch the Super Bowl with him last year or year before. And like we talked about, the branding in the commercials on the Super Bowl. Like to sit there with the founder of UGGs and like talk branding is a pretty cool thing. And, past president of Mexico, Alex Stern, the founder of Constant Contact. So the reason all of us have email lists now is because that guy started a company that brought email marketing to small businesses. And so these are the kind of people that I've surrounded myself with. And if I have any questions about anything, I have this network now of people who've built billion-dollar companies who can tell me how to do it the right way. And it's just been such a game changer. And it's got me to think so much bigger than how do I take more family clients?
I absolutely love that. And it's such an important lesson that, we sort of get tunnel vision, don't we? And we get into our industry and we see the educators in our industry, which are really important, do a great job, but we also have to spend some time looking outside of our own little niche and our own little bubbles, right? And see what's going on. So
yeah.
Somebody has asked, what's the name of the person Mike mentioned with the $3,000 seminars? I don't know, what do you want to?
His name is Greg Reed, R-E-I-D.
Greg Reed, all right.
And the event is called Secret Knock. The next one's coming up in September.
Is that Knock?
Yes, it is. So you have to apply and get interviewed to go unless you know somebody. So if you're interested, shoot me a message and I'd be happy to chat with you about it. And I can get you, it's R-E-I-D.
R-E-I-D.
By the way.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you got any questions, anybody, reach out and I'd be happy to chat with you more about what the thing is. But it's incredible. I mean, I go there and I'm the only photographer in the room who's there not working because other people go and photograph the event itself. But, I bring my camera and my lights and they just sit out in my car. And then I've booked like 3 or 4 sessions, each of the ones that I've gone to. And now that I've built up a name in that community, every time I go, I'd stay a couple days extra and I arrive early and I book sessions and I make tons of money the week that I'm down there doing commercial photography for these other entrepreneurs. So that's another lesson. When you start to get involved in a community, photographers don't do this stuff. And so if you go and do it, you're going to be like way ahead of your competition and you can be the go-to photographer for whatever it is in that community. and people fly in from around the world to work with you.
Absolutely. And it's about your network. I think there's an old saying, and it's so true, that you probably earn the average of your network. So if you think of the people who are your friends or your closest people and you add up everything that they earn, you probably earn the average of that number.
Yeah. I'm working my way up to that point. Or there's like somebody bringing down my average.
Yeah. But when you associate with billionaires, that can be challenging, right?
I know, right? Yeah. But that's just it. It's like, you find out that they've had the same struggles, they've hit the same roadblocks, and no one did anything overnight. These were all many years of developing these things. And, I'll jump back to Brian Smith from Uggs. He tried to launch this brand in Australia and it didn't work because there's sheep everywhere down there. That's one of their biggest industries. And so lambskin boots, it's like leather here in the States. Like lambskin is just everywhere because it's cheap, it's breathable, it's durable. And that's what the surfers wore. And so he brought it to America and it was a totally different thing.
He started with surfers, right? That he noticed that surfers to keep their feet warm, and that his Ugg boots were ideal for that. So he actually started, I think, with the surf community, if I remember that right.
Yes, exactly, down in Southern California. And he was shooting these advertisements that were like an Abercrombie and Fitch ad, where it's like a bunch of hot people carrying their Uggs on the beach, and sales just weren't happening. And he was in one of the surf shops one day talking to the owner, and he's like, what kind of feedback are you getting? People aren't buying these like they are in Australia. What's going on? And he's like, well, there's some kids right there. Why don't you just go ask them? And he didn't say who he was. He just walked over and there was a poster on the wall. He's like, what do you guys think of those boots? And they're like, the boots are all right, but like they're obviously not surfers, because surfers don't look like that. We don't dress like that. Like, and like, the boots are all prominent in the image. And they're like, that's just not us. That company clearly is trying to sell us something that isn't for us. And he's like, oh man. So he went down and he got some local surfers and gave them some boots and wrote them a check. And he's like, can you just like wear them and let me take some pictures? And got the local kids who are, amateur, like semi-pro surfers to wear them. And then everything just exploded. And it was one of those, like, go back to who is your market, and is what you're putting out there actually resonating with them? Can they see themselves in those photos and in that copy?
And I think there's a real lesson or two in niching down your target audience when you're starting a business, because Ugg ended up being disowned by surfers. So the surfers were the first step. And then once it got into being a fashion brand and everyone wearing them, the surfers said, this is not cool enough for us anymore. And they were out of there. But it didn't matter. It was a step along the way for Ugg to become the great success they are. So it's
absolutely. And that's it. You have to start pursuing one thing, like with social media too. A lot of people, not even just photographers, I think anyone, they're like, okay, cool. I'm going to start an Instagram feed and a blog and a YouTube channel and Facebook, and I'm going to get on TikTok and I'm going to do Twitter. And you get like 3 days in, you're like, I have no time for anything else and I hate this. And then you stop and now you're nowhere. As opposed to just picking one thing and just, okay, I'm going to get Instagram up and going until I'm booking clients. And then once I have that system down, I'm going to add Facebook in, or TikTok, or wherever your audience is. And it is, start very focused, very small, master that, and then you can add on later. But if you take on too much at once, nothing's going to happen.
Couldn't agree more. So Mike, talk to us about Boudoir then, because different people have different opinions of Boudoir. And, we have a lot of clients who are, say, the Sue Bryce follower that's doing glamour and makeover, depending where you are in the world, what you might call it. So, and what is Boudoir and how is it different from that style of photography?
Totally. So this was one thing I really wanted to work on when I launched the Boudoir Guild, my membership community for boudoir photographers. Like, what are we doing, and how do I weed out the creepers, basically, so that I can attract the right people? So I define boudoir as providing a safe and comfortable environment for our clients to explore and embrace their beauty, femininity, strength, and desirability. So if you can achieve that, then you can be a boudoir photographer. And could it be in lingerie? Totally. Could it be in, I just did a shoot last weekend in like jeans and shorts and a tank top and t-shirt and whatever, like in dresses. Like it doesn't matter what somebody's wearing. If you can help somebody explore and embrace their strength, beauty, femininity, and desirability, to me, that's boudoir. And if you just want to take sexy pictures of almost naked people, that's cool too. But to me, that's not boudoir. That's just erotic photography, and that's fine. But there is a difference. It's less about sexy photos and more about making somebody feel good about being who they are.
Okay, and so do you think there's an impression in sort of the general community or sometimes your target client that boudoir does mean what you've defined that it's not?
Yeah, and I think because it's never really been defined as an industry. Like we know what family photography is. We know what high school senior photography is. We know what a corporate headshot looks like versus I could do a portrait of somebody versus a headshot, and we can distinguish those things. And it's mainly for purpose, right? What are we trying to achieve with this photo? And I don't think that's ever really happened in the boudoir space. And I do love what Sue Bryce has done with it, because she didn't say boudoir, she said glamour. And it's not boudoir. You don't have to have lingerie in a boudoir session, but it is pretty prominent. But again, it's about being vulnerable and comfortable in your skin. And I think that's a powerful tool, is by actually, taking off those layers of protection, if you will, and being comfortable with yourself that way. So I think just because we've never defined it, there is all of that wiggle room for other things to be classified as boudoir. And that's part of my mission with the Boudoir Guild, is to elevate this industry and help clean up the reputation that's been tarnished by all the creepy dudes with cameras.
Right. I love that. And I love your mission. And if we can help in any way, I'm happy to help. So just talk to me then, if I am a client of yours and I'm going to do one of these boudoir sessions, do they come to your studio, or how does all that work?
Yeah. So I have my home office here, designated office, faces the front of my house. That's the street out that door. Clients come over, we meet here. I have samples all over in here. I had a high school senior come in yesterday, so I took down the boudoir photos and put the family stuff up. So, because I shoot more than just boudoir, but it is a majority of my business. And, I talk about like, why are you doing a boudoir shoot? What's the occasion? And, a lot of times it's a gift for somebody else. And just as many times it's like, I had 3 kids and I'm finally down to the weight I was before I had children, or I'm newly divorced and I want to feel good about being me on my own, or I'm going to have a baby and I think this would be a cool way to do maternity photos. Lots of different reasons. So it's good feedback for me also. But I want to know my client's story, so I know how to tell their story better in these photos. And then I can find out, cool, are there cool things unique things that we want to incorporate in your session? Are you a big sports fan? Are you playing music? Are you a dancer? Or some of your photos going to be in ballet flats? I want to keep it as customized, personalized as possible. Then we schedule a day for the actual session. I shoot in hotels. I've got 2 of them near my house, and I pick them because of the colors and the furniture inside the hotel. And we meet up there, do hair and makeup. Takes about an hour and a half. Then we do the actual session, and it's another hour and a half. And then I send my clients to go grab dinner or coffee or something. They go take a 90-minute break. Then we meet right back here. And in that 90 minutes, I will call and edit their images. So we'll go from like 300 down to 120, 150. We do same day sales. And so we do IPS right here, and then they pick everything out write me a check that same day. And my clients love doing same day sales. A couple reasons. One, in Silicon Valley, there's traffic all the time everywhere. And so if they don't have to drive places any more times than necessary, then that's a win. Also, I found that a lot of my clients, if they waited a week to come see their photos, they spent that whole week wondering, did I look good? Is there anything usable? Are the photos garbage? Was I ugly? Did I not do a good job? I had no idea they had all that anxiety around the photos and waiting for them. Because for me, it's like, well, no, of course you got good photos. Like, I'm good at what I do, but like you can't mess this up. There's like no way. But it's a different conversation in their head. So when I started doing same day sales, somebody told me, she's like, I'm hiring you because of this. Like, I like your style and everything, but I didn't want to sit around and wait because last time I did this, it was an awful, awful long week. I'm like, cool. Well, now I know that, and I use it as a marketing tool, that, same day sales is a benefit for that reason. So that's the experience.
So you're taking away the friction then, which is time and effort to come and view the images again. Mm-hmm. You're also getting them when they've gone through the whole process of the shoots being created and created by you and directed by you and taken by you. So the excitement still,
absolutely,
the experience is fresh, isn't it? It's still there in their minds. So
yep.
So they're likely to buy. Can I go back a step though to when you say you do the pre-shoot consultation in your office? Mm-hmm. Is that a separate day? Is that prior to the shoot? That's a shoot.
It is.
Session, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I don't ever want to meet my clients the day that we do the shoot. It's just part of the comfort building. And as a male photographer, I want them to be more comfortable with me and already know me at that point. We've already had a good conversation about who they are and what they want to get out of this experience. And it's also a way to pre-sell. So when they show up here to my office, I show them my gorgeous 3XM folio boxes and my albums and the metal prints on my walls. And I plant that seed, like, now you can start thinking about how you want to display your images. And then when they come back for their IPS, they're like, I remember I really liked that. And I want to do this also. And so it's a sales tool also.
So you're planting the seed for
mm-hmm.
and you're planting the seed for how much you're going to spend, and so that they're prepared and there's no surprises. And so before they come for the shoot at all, you've planted the seed for what they can expect to spend and what they can get for that. And
totally.
So before you lift the camera, you're nearly the sale is nearly done, right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, and same thing. The reason I require hair and makeup in my sessions, and I'm there for that, is because I want that warm-up time of us sitting around talking, no camera, for them to just get comfortable while they get their hair and makeup done and relax and not feel like they have to show up and suddenly just take their clothes off. And I keep my stylist there for the entire shoot. It's never just me and a client. I mean, yes, she's there for like touch-ups and moving stray hairs and stuff, but also for my client's comfort and liability protection for me. So there's always somebody else, always another woman there. And I'm always the only male in the room. The only time there will be another male present is during the viewing session. Sometimes they'll bring their husband or partner along with them.
And does that happen often, that they bring their partner, and does that make the sale less or more? Or have you any experience of that, or does it vary per client?
Always more. Yeah, because the guys look at all these pictures and they want every single one of them.
So I love that. So I love your methodology. So the woman comes to the shoot and you do the session, and then they have an hour and a half for dinner. So their partner comes to the dinner and they have a lovely dinner, and then you do the viewing while they've had a lovely dinner and hopefully a few glasses of wine. And it's just a wonderful day and experience and celebration of each other too, isn't it? I love the way you've done that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it wasn't all on purpose from the beginning. I didn't engineer it like that, but it's evolved into that because of the feedback that I've got. The first time I tried to do same day sales, I told them to take an hour-long break, and I get like 30 minutes in and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to finish this in an hour. And then I learned, but I, set the timer on my phone, And it's like, how fast can I download these images to my computer and then edit them and turn them around? And I like gamified it, and I worked at my workflow until I could get it down where I could go from sitting down at this chair to IPS ready with my slideshow with everything done in 90 minutes.
Wow.
So
we've got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Vicky's asking, how much time do you spend in the consultation meetings?
15, 20 minutes tops. It's really just, what's your story? Why are we doing the shoot? Any important things that we want to incorporate in the shoot. Like if it's for their partner, do they have a favorite sports team? Do you want to grab their jersey? One of my clients last year, her husband was an Air Force pilot. And so she got, some of his uniform stuff and brought that and things like that. And then we talk about ways they can print the photos, and that's, we'll pick a day for the shoot, and that's it. It's pretty quick.
So Bruce wants to know, how much post-editing are you doing for the same day viewing, I think he's talking about, or the same day sales session?
Yeah.
Are you editing fully, or is it you're bringing it to a certain level and then you do some post-editing on the ones that are bought, or how are you dealing with that?
They're probably 95% done when my client sees them in that window. And I shoot to reduce editing time. And so I've learned how to do my shoot to cut down on that. And with my lighting style, I have my presets in Lightroom. I have my plugins that I use, and I know how to set my scenes. I know how to light and pose and speed up that workflow. But yeah, there might be like a light stand leg visible in the corner of an image. I'll remove that, or something little like that. But in general, the photos are just about print ready when my client sees them.
So Mike, you talk a lot about print and the importance of print and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm reading as well as talking. I don't know how I'm managing to do that. I'm probably going to say something crazy now. But the question that we're always asked about, how do you handle digital files?
Yeah. So some of the packages come with them, low res files. The base package does not. And then does it? I just redid all my packages like 2 weeks ago and upped my prices. It's, I just released a lesson in my membership area about how to set your prices and pick packages and stuff. And someone's like, I don't know if I did it right. I'm like, cool, well, try it and see how your clients respond. And then we go from there. Like, I change mine at least once a year. And some products sell more than others and some don't sell at all. And so I'll just remove those and maybe find something new if it fits my brand and go from there. But with digitals, they get an Animoto slideshow with some of the pictures, but they get a low res copy of whatever they print. So if they want more digitals, they get more prints. And, in the folio box, for example, if it has 30 pictures, then they get 30 images. The only way they can get a full res image is if they buy my anchor package. That's like $9,000. And then at that point, I'm like, take them.
Yeah. Just write the check and there
yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Right. Is there another question here? So, do you allow a significant other to attend a photo session if they want, if the woman wants them to be there?
No, I don't allow anybody else in the room. I am making that exception this next month, but only because it's a past client who's done a shoot with me and has referred other friends to me. And this is her best friend and asked if this particular person could be in the room. And so I am making that exception because she's been an amazing client and knows the drill, but generally no, because of two reasons. The first, I don't want my client to walk out of the bathroom with something and have their friend who might mean well say, that doesn't look great on you. And then that ruins the whole shoot because now she thinks she's ugly and nothing's going to look good. Also, I don't want them to tell me how to do my job. And it happened a couple of times, in different shoots where they're like, oh, you should move your arm out this way instead. I'm like, can you not tell my clients how to pose? You have no idea what I'm seeing. So I need you to shut your mouth or leave. And I have no trouble kicking somebody out of a shoot, but I'd rather just prevent that altogether.
I love it. And I think that's a great lesson to end on, Mike. We could talk all night. I really could talk all night with you, and I know our viewers could too. But listen, if somebody wants to get more of Mike, how do they do that? How do they make contact with you?
Yeah, so you can join the Facebook group that I've got going on. I just sent you that link. It'll be posted, I think, in the show notes too. Also, boudoirguild.com is a great place to find me. So I set up a diagnostic tool there. Okay, you know those quizzes that are like, you know, what Harry Potter character are you and what kind of cheese are you, right? Some of those actually serve a really good purpose. And it was one of those like learn from people outside of your industry. I'm a musician also. So there's a guy who teaches guitar lessons and he set one of these things up and I thought it was brilliant. So I found out how he did it and got in there. And it's basically like a diagnostic tool because I've been coaching photography, right, for 9 years. And I've learned like the 5 most common things that stop a boudoir photographer from being able to grow their business. Like in all of my research, it's like 5 main things. So if you go through this question and answer or this little quiz, it's like 7 questions. I can tell you not only what your biggest obstacle is and like what to address first, but I have a free video at the end of that. It's like how to actually start to overcome that. And then from there, there's a link to join the Facebook group and stay in touch if you want. But I think that's the best place to start is just boudoirguild.com. It'll take you right to that evaluation. And then it's an easy way to get started if you want to build a boudoir photography business.
So is that the link that I've shared? Is that quiz or is that different? No, that's a Facebook quiz. So
yeah, so the other one is just boudoirguild.com.
Boudoir. I hope I spelled this right now. Guild. Is that right? Boudoir, right? Guild.com.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so go to that, do the quiz, and then they're in the network, and you can talk through them, and they can get to know you a little bit better. You know, they've got to know well today or tonight, as it is here, the morning there. And then is the group a paid group then, or how does all that work?
Yeah, the Facebook group is totally free.
Okay.
There are people in there in the membership area. And so I do, give samples of what is in the membership area. You can reach me there, ask any kind of questions, get support with whatever you're working on, things like that. The membership area is paid. And I think I still have some founding member spots in there. So if you want to get in on that now, you can lock in half off for life. For being one of the original members. So
guys, get over there now and do it and get in and be a founder member and lock in that price,
yeah, by the end of July, it'll definitely be gone.
There you go. So you have a little, and you can learn. We've only had a chat a couple of times on the phone. We met briefly at Shutterfest, but this man is a fountain of knowledge. And you can learn so much from them. So we've had a taste of that tonight. But if you want to create, and it doesn't have to be just boudoir probably, you can learn, look outside. If you're a wedding photographer, you can probably learn something from what Mike is teaching here in boudoir and translate it into wedding or family.
Yeah, totally. Well, and a lot of the people that sign up for this program are wedding photographers, because now if you add bridal boudoir onto your services, you can make more money from the same number of clients.
Love it.
So,
there's a few Q&As here. Wait till I see. Oh,
yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Ron says. You're welcome, Ron. Do you pay for the hotel use or does the client pay?
So yeah, I got those up too. I'm glad we could get to those. Well, Sandy, I build that into my session fee. So my session fee is $300. That covers hair, makeup, the hotel, and a bottle of Prosecco. So they do get a glass of bubbly or soda water or water, whatever, before, like during the hair and makeup process. No, the hotel does not know I'm doing photography there. I bring everything in a regular suitcase. I don't think they care. I know I've told them in the past what I'm doing, but some hotels do not allow photography because people go in and shoot shady stuff. So I totally get that. I'd rather just not make it, make a big deal out of it. So yeah, it's all built into the session fee. So technically, yeah, the clients pay for it.
And Hugh wants to know, same day sales, do you bring a printer? But you're not printing, right? You're printing afterwards. It's a digital reveal?
Correct. Yeah, Hugh, it's a digital thing. So I've got a big TV and we look at everything on there. And then once they've chosen whatever they want, pay for everything. And the next morning I send everything through to the print lab, because everything is like 95% edited. So I do want to go in and make any kind of final touch-ups, or if they're like, I love that image, but can you, do whatever, fix that thing, I'll go in and do that. And I don't want to make them sit there while I Photoshop stuff.
Very good, Mike. I think that's all the questions. Thank you so much for sharing. We really do appreciate it. And guys, go across and join that group. Seriously, lock in that founder member price, because you will learn an awful lot from this man. So
thanks for having me, Ronan.
Thank you for joining us, Mike. It's a pleasure as always. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. So stay safe and healthy. And hopefully maybe someday I get out there to see your setup, and we'll have a pint and a bourbon or whatever that is, and we can buy you a meal. So look forward to that day.
Deal. You can get a real California burrito when you're out here.
There you go. I've never been to California. Can you believe that? So I definitely have to get there. Yeah. So good night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you all again soon.
Cheers.
Bye for now.
Bye.